What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Chad Pennington. Welcome to today's video. Let's get started. Actually, it's the second video of the day. First time I'm doing a double upload. Nice. All right, so news and notes of the day, or of the last couple days. Just gathered up some news stories, some things that caught my eye, and things that I believe that I will be able to give you sort of an interesting, unique take on, and that I want to share. I don't know if I can commit to doing this every day. I like to do this like every X number of days, hence gathering up 2-3 day old news stories and putting it into one video. If there's a day where something insane happens, maybe I'll just do a standalone video on a topic. But for right now, I can't commit to everyday production of a video like this. I am trying to produce at least one video every day, but I don't know if I could do a regular video and a news video. That's a lot of stuff on one plate for me to be able to do. And you can already tell by this setup, this is pretty low quality production. So you have to bear with me. But thank you for the interactions that I've gotten so far. All right, let's get started. Wisconsin linebacker edge rusher Zack Barnhart has tested positive for a diluted sample at the combine. And his excuse was that he was just taking in excess water to gain weight, basically. And from what I've read on social media, it seems like people sort of believe him, that this was nothing nefarious and he was just trying to give himself a little bit of edge in the weight department. And it's believable because he's undersized. That's one of the criticisms against him. So it doesn't seem like there's any foul play here. And what's interesting is under the new CBA, this is not considered a strike against him. But if this was under the old CBA, it would. Now, because it's under the new one, it's not a strike. So experts and analysts don't believe that there's any reason for his draft stock to plummet. They believe that he should still go in the range that he's currently being projected. So it's not going to hurt his draft stock, which I think his predicted range is somewhere between 20 on the very high end and probably 40 would be his absolute floor, I would think, at least in my mind. We can all agree to disagree on that. Exactly. All right, moving on to the second point, or second story. The Patriots, WEEI in Boston is reporting the Patriots have had video conference calls with Ben DiNucci, the quarterback from James Madison. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know who that is, because until today, I have never heard of this man. And I have, I'm not somebody that pays great attention to FCS football, but I've covered it in the past when I went to college at one of them. And I am familiar with James Madison, very good football school. And but I'm not familiar at all with Ben DiNucci. So I would probably have to go to YouTube and hope that somebody's got some tape up there on him, which I don't know. I'll go see after I do this. But that's kind of interesting that they bring this up, because if you remember, Jimmy Garoppolo was also an FCS quarterback, and they took him in the third round the year that they drafted him. So there's actually precedent for this to be an interesting what would you call it? A meeting of the quarterback and the team through a video call. So that's just something to keep your eye on. So I think the Patriots are definitely looking for quarterback in this draft. I think that's a pretty safe bet, but there's obviously a wide range of available options in their minds. And this is probably just them being proactive, doing their homework and making sure they've got everything covered and well prepared, which is, it's the Patriots. They're going to do that. All right, moving on, the Denver Broncos have reportedly had a video call with Denzel Mims. Now, that in and of itself is nothing exciting or to write home about. Team A meets with player X. That's every day. That happens all the time. What makes this interesting in my mind is that Denzel Mims' draft stock has just skyrocketed these last few months, that now he's taking phone calls with the team that has the 15th overall pick in the draft. And that's pretty exciting. And the reason I bring that up is because the Broncos' next pick in the second round, he's not going to be available. He's probably going to be off the board by then. So I think them looking at him in the first round is a little bit of a heads up for the rest of the teams in the draft that might be considering Denzel Mims, that his draft stock has now reached his ceiling. And, there's a couple teams ahead of the Denver Broncos that are looking heavily at wide receiver. The Oakland Raiders, 49ers at 13th overall that just traded into that spot. You could also even talk about the Jaguars potentially looking for somebody at number 9. So maybe the Broncos feel like, hey, the wide receivers that we really do like, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs are going to be gone, so we better do our homework. So that's an interesting tidbit. Moving on to number 4, Louisiana interior offensive lineman Robert Hunt is apparently the star of the show this week, because there was a Twitter post outlining all of the teams that he's had conference calls with. And boy, is it a lot. I didn't even bother to list them because it's so many. Just assume it's half the league. And the reason that I thought this was interesting is because this gives me Titus Howard vibes from last year. If you remember, he was, I think, oh gosh, I can't remember the school off the top of his head. I think it was Southern Alabama or something like that. But he was projected to be like a second round, day two pick, offensive tackle that ends up going in the first round to Houston. And one of the things then when I was looking at the draft prospects last year, Walter Payton Football has a list of, or keeps track of all of the team meetings that players have. And Titus Howard's name was popping up quite a bit. And this is giving me the same vibes here with Robert Hunt. So maybe Robert Hunt sneaks into the first round. I mean, the interior offensive linemen in this draft are not very, um, worthy of first round picks. Maybe Cesar Ruiz has been talked about, but not too much of anything else. So it'd be interesting to see if that ends up happening. So that's just something I'm going to keep my eye out on, seeing where he goes in the draft. Maybe he goes first day. Who knows? All right, and then moving on to the biggest probably rumor of the day is that it looks like the first reports came out of Minnesota that the Browns are interested in trading Odell Beckham Jr. to the Vikings. Now, since that initial report has come out, I've seen a lot of other journalists say that they've talked to a source and they said, no, that's not true, not happening, fake news, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, the Giants also said the same thing before they traded Odell Beckham Jr. If you remember, Dave Gettleman says, we just signed him. Why would I trade him? And then he goes and trades him. So there's precedent once again for this to happen. And you hear it all the time in sports. Like even the Cardinals last year before the draft, they knew they were taking Kyler Murray, and yet they would still go out there and be like, Josh Rosen is our guy. It's just them saying the right things to the camera. They're not going to say, yeah, well, we definitely fucking hate this dude. We're going to trade him. They're not going to do that. Okay. They have to save face in the moment to protect the integrity of the locker room. So nothing's going to happen until it happens, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but at the same time, it's true. So as a Vikings fan, would I be interested in having Odell Beckham Jr.? I mean, yeah, from a personnel standpoint, absolutely, because we have Adam Thielen and then not too much of anything else as far as wide receiver goes right now. It would also excite me to have him because that means we would not be using high price draft capital on a wide receiver, even though the wide receivers in this class I do like. And also from what I've heard, that the Browns aren't interested in getting a lot for him, i.e. they only want like a second and fifth round pick for him, which, I mean, I'd be happy to hand over. So that's going to be something interesting to see. Maybe it ends up being a draft day trade. Um, I know the Vikings are still probably looking to trade away Anthony Harris right now, who's on the franchise tag. So maybe he becomes part of that deal. But there's still a lot of things to iron out. Like the one big flaw in this scenario that I see with the Vikings getting Odell Beckham Jr. is that I don't know if they can afford him. I think Odell Beckham is guaranteed $14 million this year or next year or whatever it may be. I don't know if the Vikings have the cap space for that, especially if they decide to end up bringing in somebody on the free agent market that is still out there, like Jadeveon Clowney, or maybe they trade for Trent Williams. Positions of need right now. So I don't know, something to keep your eye on. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.